If you've ever heard of Reiki on this podcast before but still need a deep dive, then keep listening because we've got you. My wonderful friend Jess, who's a Reiki practitioner, gives us the breakdown of what it actually is, how it can empower you in your own energetic healing, and how it can be used for physical and emotional well-being. If you are new here, you're listening to the How We Get Thru podcast, a place for you to feel connected through deep and meaningful conversations with healers from all over the world. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and founder and CEO of the How We Get Thru app, and my mission is to bring you affordable and diverse therapy resources to help you get through the hard stuff, all in one place and at your own pace. Welcome to the How We Get Thru community. Hello, and welcome back to the How We Get Thru podcast. We have another special one today. We have my really good friend, Jess Iz, who's a wellness coach and Reiki practitioner. Jess, welcome to the show.
Yay! I'm so excited and honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yes. And so I've been on your podcast. I think last year we had like a mutual friend hook us up through the interwebs, but we actually live very close to each other. So we've become really good friends since then.
As soon as I heard of what you do, I was like, oh, I have to have you on my podcast. And we've been fast friends ever since.
We're just two normal girls just looking for a little woo
we're
in our
normies.
lives.
Giving permission for other normies
Or the
to
normie.
Enter this fun world because it's fun.
Yes, it's magical and mystical and it's like sparkly, you know? I love it. Jess, so give us a little background because we're going to talk about Reiki today and I cannot wait. I've also had Reiki with you, so I'm excited to talk about that. But how did you get here? How did the woo get you here?
I've been very intuitive, I would say, my whole life. I've never really leaned into it. And I really was, I have a very grounded business. I am a skincare, I have a skincare business, skincare products. I'm an esthetician. But this year, I just found, like at the beginning of the year when I set my intentions for the year and my word of the year, intuition came up. And I was like, just something out there was saying, look into this, like pay attention to your intuition this year. We're going to deepen our intuition. I did not know what that meant. And literally the first month of the year, January, I came across a Reiki training. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what it was. And I was like, but I have to do it. So because my intuition said to do it, I did it. I signed up for Reiki. And that was level 1. The next month I did level 2. I've done level 3. I just was like, oh yes, this feels right. This is amazing. And I just fell in love with it and everything about it. So that's sort of how I kind of fell into it, kind of fell into my lap.
I love that. And everyone's intuition is different, but I would love it if you could talk about when you were connecting to your intuition, or like, what did that feel like for you? Is it like something you hear? Is it a full body yes? Is it just, you don't even know, you're just clicking purchase you're like, what's happening?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I learned when I found out about human design, which I found out about last year. And I'm a generator, and I also have that the sacral knowing. So it's kind of like, to me, it's when I learned like, oh yeah, I get a feeling in my gut that's like either yes, it's like yes, you have to do it, or like it's a no. And I started to lean into that last year, and I just kind of started to really listen to my gut, for lack of a better description. And that's kind of like what happened with the Reiki. When I saw the Reiki, I was like, oh, like, yes, I just felt it. But throughout my life, I've had dreams that have come true, and I've had like a lot of deja vu, and I just have like a knowing about, like, my mom always says, about someone like right away, like if they have a good vibe or not, for lack of a better term. But I can just kind of pick up on people really easily. And that's always just been something that I just thought everybody had, but that a lot of people say they don't. And so that's something that I have felt very in tune with. And that's kind of the main thing there. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I mean, I'm a projector with a splenic intuition. I'm missing the word right now. And splenic is the worst because it's like a soft whisper. It's like the tiniest, and it's usually not even yeses. I think it's more no's. I have to do more research in this. So if you're into that, let me know. So that's why I always like to ask them, how did you know? How did you know? You know, and I think when you can kind of tap into your own way of doing that, then it feels more aligned and you start making decisions quicker and easier. And it doesn't feel like you're at the whims of something else, but really tapping into your full self.
So that was something that I think in the beginning of the year when my word was intuition, that's what I wanted to tap into more because I knew I could do it, but I was like, oh, I want to be like, this is a path I'm going to go down. Should I go left or right? And I wanted to listen to my higher self and my gut to help me, to guide me, because I feel like I could know the answer if I really tapped into that. And what I learned about Reiki is that it's a wonderful way to do that. A lot of people who become Reiki practitioners and learn Reiki deepen their intuition. That's just a side effect of it. And so when I found that out, I was like, oh, for sure. No wonder I was like called to do Reiki, because that's something that's kind of like a tool that I want to be able to tap into for my life, for my business, for just like all areas. So I did feel like, oh, wow, that's what Reiki helps people do.
And it's so interesting. I'm thinking about your life and pulling the thread. Like even as an esthetician, you have them lay on the bed. And now as a Reiki practitioner, you have them lay on the bed. And it's, I mean, really the energetics of the face, right? And now you've just expanded it to the whole body.
For me, when I started to do Reiki, is that I had this past experience of giving treatments, and I used to write protocols for 4- and 5-star resorts, and I would write their facial treatments and their body treatments, and there was always a component of wellness, relaxation. It's funny, one of the first jobs that I ever had in the wellness industry was for a company who had a protocol, and you would lay on the table receiving a treatment, and they would start with this calm mind ritual where you're breathing in essential oils, you're taking deep breaths, you're like shining bright white light. Like all of this was back when I was, 20 something years ago. And when I was creating, because that's how my brain works, a protocol for Reiki, I was like, oh, that has to be part of it. And so I've pulled things from my skincare and wellness background into what I'm currently doing with Reiki to make it a little bit more unique and just more lovely. You know, adding those little niceties, those wellness touches, I think make it even more special.
Yes, it's more nurturing.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of people who I've met who do Reiki have come from like yoga, a lot of yoga practitioners, and a lot of massage too. So my background's a little different, but it I feel like it helps with the flow. It helps make it
but it's not.
seem like a real treatment, like a pampering treatment. Yeah.
Okay, so what is Reiki?
So Reiki, and that's what I wanted to know back when I signed up for it. I was like, okay, what is this again? Reiki is universal energy. So just if you break it down, it's a Japanese word. So Rei means universal and Ki means energy. So Ki is the same as Chi. But that's the Chinese word. So it's literally energy.
Right.
Like we are all energy. As humans, everything is energy in our world. And there is universal energy that we can tap into as Reiki practitioners. We have, energy centers in our hands. And we have them throughout our body. Like if you've talked about this on your show, the chakras. So those are energy centers.
Yes.
And what we do is we literally tap into the universal energy. I know it sounds super weird, but it's not our energy as practitioners.
I love it.
We are utilizing the universe for that, and we are placing our hands either lightly touching or even no touching, and helping to just rebalance the energy in our clients. So life is stressful. We get off balance. Our energy can be off balance. And so Reiki is a really lovely way to help redistribute it, to rebalance it, to help heal. And we could talk about like why people get it. But as far as what it is, it's just a way for the energy in our bodies to become more balanced.
What is it like for you? What do you do with your energy? So if you're kind of like grabbing from this universal energy, are you having to stay really grounded? Do you feel like you're just kind of this vessel?
Yeah, I feel more like a vessel. We are using it and it's coming through us, but it's not from us. And that's why I never get tired after doing Reiki. I actually am receiving it as well. So, which is, I mean,
wow.
Reiki is such a positive, by the way, side note, this is such a positive energy. There's no negative when it comes to Reiki. And I think that's what I found to be so magical about it, is that it's a pure positive energy that is, you can't have a negative out of it. It just says that's just not how it is.
Yeah.
And so when you're giving it to someone, you don't even have to know what is wrong or how it works. And you don't even have to believe it for it to be true and for it to work. So I love that about it because, one thing about me when I first started, I was like, I've been a perfectionist in my life where I'm like, okay, I have to do this. I have to be perfect about this. I have to really know it before I start. But I didn't really feel like that with Reiki, because the minute I was able to do it and I was trained, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, it just works and it just flows. And
wow.
I'm able to do it. I'm capable of doing it without even doing it for 30 years, so, which is so amazing about it.
Which brings me maybe to a past life. Do you feel like there's a connection with that?
I think Reiki is just easy. That's my attitude towards it. And I don't feel like that about many things. I just was like, this is just so
right.
easy. And I'm able to like see results for my clients in a easy way. It was just effortless. But I don't know. I don't know if that's just because I'm not doing it. So it's not like a ego thing where I have to be like, oh, I'm not good enough or what. I don't, it's not even me. It's like, I'm tapping into an energy. So I don't even feel like I can't take credit for it because it's just something that I do that flows and that works. And it sounds very woo-woo. Like when I first heard about it, I'm like, this is a little weird. And because I can be a skeptical person, I'm very open, but I can be skeptical. And the first time I was doing it, I was like, is this even real? And I can talk about like some of the things I've seen, but they use Reiki in hospitals, in the US and the UK, like all over. And one thing that I like to say too about Reiki that I didn't mention before is it is a complementary treatment, not an alternative treatment. So I think that's really important because it's not like if somebody hurts their foot, it's like, oh, I'm just going to get Reiki instead of getting surgery. It's no, get the surgery, but get the Reiki too, because what does it do? I mean, it helps with pain management. They use it in hospitals for pain management, for healing. So anxiety, a lot of times stress management and reduction. So having something stressful or painful with your treatment that you're getting, whatever that might be, and also having the Reiki will just help. It just helps heal you faster, and it helps with so many other things that I mentioned. So I love to mention that because it isn't a woo-woo thing. Like it's science-based, and people are using it in a very mainstream way.
I just want to circle back to real quick when you talk about like your ego and it's like, it's not me doing it. I think though the work that you do or have done is to put your ego aside, because a lot of, and I haven't been trained in it yet, but I will. But a lot of people could be like, oh, I'm going to be the best, or with anything in spiritual, ego can always lead. And so I'm hearing that it felt very easy for you, that there wasn't a lot of ego, there wasn't a lot of fight or having to like work through. But I do think that like mentioning that and just reflecting that back for you is a big piece, that you're able to just let it flow. That it's either you worked on that now, or it's something from the past that just felt like you moved ego aside to be this vessel for something else. And so I can't skip over that. Okay, Jess? Because that's not everybody can do that. So, and I think when you talk about your experience, well, doesn't everybody do this, because we think that because it's our own experience. And I'm like, no, a lot of people in the spiritual world have a lot of ego. And so the fact that you don't, especially in this work, makes you that much more powerful. Or
I think
Good.
having like you said, you mentioned my background and like being in a spa setting and working on clients before, I think that really helped me with like the flow of it, so that it feels like complete. And one of the main reasons people will come to me is for relaxation or because they're stressed out, and it gives you an hour to lay on a table and relax and get into that parasympathetic state of being that we need to get to sometimes, that rest and digest. But also I think without any fluff or without any protocol, the Reiki will still work. And, you'll still see a result.
Yeah.
But it's in my brain, I'm like, okay, but I want it to be nice and, complete. And when you get a professional service, a Reiki service somewhere, you should, you'll have that. Everyone has their own spin on it, because everyone has a different place that they're coming from when they start.
Which reminds me, I did have Reiki when I was getting massage, and I was like middle of the massage, and she's like, can I do some Reiki on you? And I was like, yeah. And she like pressed on like, I think, the sacral chakra, and I'm just crying, just sobbing. And I just remember just that emotional release, because it felt so physical. I didn't feel like super emotional in the sadness, but it felt like, oh, my body needs to like kind of let this go. Again, that energy, like I was just storing that there. And it was just so powerful. And I love that you say, like, for me, it's like, okay, yeah, I have to go to therapy and like really sort this out and do a lot of digging. And energetically, I was also storing something there too. And so I like how it complements both. And they can kind of be both this entry into the same thing. I love
that too, that your story there, because, we know so much about how emotion is stored in the body physically. And that is something that really, it can really help with release. And that's one thing that a lot of people say when they're down with a treatment is like, it's like they feel a release, they feel lighter. A lot of people do cry. Some people will maybe not on the table, but maybe like afterwards. Or I've had people who were in kind of a bad mood afterwards, and then like the next morning, everything lifted, and they were like in the best mood ever. It's so different and individual too, based on you, based on the client. What are you going through physically, emotionally? What's on your heart? So it depends. And every session, I have a very regular client, and every session is different. She's different every time she comes. What she needs is different. I don't need to know that for it to work either, which is pretty cool, because there's not very many things I can think of that work like that.
Right. And I think in the spiritual energy work that I've done, there's been sometimes where the practitioner was able to clear everything, and then there's some pieces where it's like, oh, I can clear this 50%. They're wanting me to leave the rest for you. So when you talk about like they had a bad mood and they still have the bad mood after, and then the next day they are lifted, I think it's giving us permission to be in the work as well, like, and not just leaving that on the table for somebody else, but somebody can assist us and maybe help us or see things that we don't see. but that we get to be empowered in that work. Like, there's things that I'm still needing to work on that are still showing up for me for a reason, right? Like, and that's life. We came here to do certain things, and so yeah, I just think
It's
that's
so
so interesting.
And yeah, I think it's interesting how different everybody's experience is, and I've had people who feel nothing, and I felt nothing. I've had Reiki. The last time I had Reiki, I felt none of the things that a lot of my clients tell me that they feel until the very end. And like my shoulder just dropped like this and my leg went like this. And I'm like, what was that? I asked, the therapist at the end, and she's like, that was just your body like balancing out like the energy. And honestly, who knows what it was? We don't have to know.
And so is there, like at the end, do you assign meaning to things, or do you kind of let that be open for their interpretation?
So as a practitioner, you can definitely feel the energy. And in certain areas, you can feel maybe more energy than others. And so I like to, definitely to have a little consultation before the treatment and find out what's going on, what they want to focus on, what brought them in. And then at the end, we sit and chat about like what they experienced, what I felt, what I like experienced, what I saw. And then they'll sometimes open up and tell me, oh yeah, I forgot. Like that was something that I was dealing with. Like the very first week I was doing Reiki, I had a friend come over, and I felt like this really like a strong activity in her stomach, but she hadn't mentioned anything about her stomach. So afterwards, and I spent more time on there, so if we feel a lot of activity, we might spend more time on a certain area. And this was all hands off. It was around her stomach. I did not touch her stomach. It was right above. And she told me, well, at the end, she's like, I'm constipated. I haven't gone to the bathroom in like a few days.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I maybe that's what I was feeling. And then about an hour later, she called me and said she went to the bathroom. And I was like, that is not something I expected Reiki to help with. Like, I had no idea. It was like probably my second person I had ever done. And that's when I was like, that's so cool. Like, how cool is that? What a cool result. And she just felt so much better. So yeah, it's one of those things where I kind of let them know if I'm feeling a lot, or if I'll feel sensations. Temperature changes is also a common experience for people. They'll feel either cold or hot. And me too. So there's a lot of, I mentioned that parasympathetic, that rest and digest. So a lot of people, just by simply laying on the table, deep breathing, they go into that parasympathetic phase, and they'll start swallowing. The beginning of digestion, happens there in the mouth, and then I'll hear a lot of stomach growling, and I will get that too. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm thirsty. That's a very common side effect, is people are really thirsty.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, drink water. You flush it out. It's kind of like a cleansing treatment, really. So you want to kind of drink water afterwards. But I'll feel those things too. So I'll always share what I feel with the client.
And what do you feel like when you have your hands on something? Are you feeling like sensations in your palms? Are you feeling sensations in your body? Are you feeling like vibrations?
I felt all of those things. The most common thing I feel is my hands are very active, and I feel like just like vibrations. And I can be talking about Reiki, and all of a sudden my hands are like going crazy. So I'm very sensitive to it.
Wow.
And but like the temperature, I get the temperature a lot. Like I'll feel warm, or I'll feel something cool. I've had people who've told me, did you turn a fan on? Like I just felt a gush of like
Yeah.
breeze. I'm like, that is wild. There's nothing, I've done nothing different. Like,
Yeah.
I remember having somebody tell me that, was this you? I can't remember if this was you or not, but like I was they're like, I thought you were pressing. No, it wasn't you. Putting my hands on their chest and like pushing like gently. And I was like, no, I was not doing that.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. Yes. It is crazy because, you know, you have like
Eye mask.
not a blindfold on, but like an eye mask. Not blindfolded. So it is this weird, almost like you're guessing. You're like, is she by my head? And you're like, no, I've been down your feet this whole time, you know? And it's just this crazy when you allow yourself to get in touch with sensations and feelings. And I'm the cold girl. I've definitely both times is just like freezing cold down my left shoulder, which I've connected to like emotional abandonment. And so, and I know that's here. And I actually have like a pin, I don't know. It's like pain in my left shoulder, like from when I work out, like it's just always my neck, my whole shoulder on this side can easily freeze up a lot. So I got some stuff to work through. But it all connected. And it was just a wild sensation because it's not like you're telling my body to do that. I'm not saying my body's to do that, and it's just doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. I had that what you just said is true. I hear that a lot where you were like, "Oh, are you up here, but I'm really down at your feet." Or I had somebody was like, I felt, they're like, at the end of the treatment, did you put your forehead on my forehead? And I'm like, that would be super weird if I did that. No, I didn't. But she's like, I could have sworn you had your head on my head. So it's just it's weird. I'm telling you, it is just like, you just go, wow.
Yeah.
I get so excited when people tell me these things because I'm like, it just shows like it's so real. It is working, and it's so interesting how it feels and how it can feel in our body, and not just like the physical, like we said, like there can be that emotional release. There can be mood is lifted. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me they were just like, I'm on cloud 9. I just feel so good and so cleansed, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And do you go through like the chakras, or do you go through like body parts?
Oh, so that's one thing I didn't mention, but yeah, I start at the crown and I work my way down, but you do something with scanning. And so I like to scan the body before I even start and just see if I feel anything in any specific areas. And then I do like to go through and balance the chakras as well, just putting some extra time on each chakra. And then we also have hand placements. So I have like areas that I'll definitely go through. Some are touched, some are above, depending on the hand placement area. But I always end at the feet. And that's just kind of like a complete, we go all the way around the body, but we always end at the feet. So that's just like to help them be grounded at the end. I do like doing the chakras, though. I think that is a really helpful thing to do. And it's not necessary. I mean, chakra work doesn't have to be in Reiki, but it's a common thing that people that do Reiki address.
Well, it sounds like when you like kind of expand past the chakras, there's like I like mini chakras and all the arms and stuff, but it's like the whole body as a whole has so much energy and has so many things happening with it. So it's not just treating one, like the big energy centers, but the body as a whole.
That's another reason why when we do like end at the feet, people feel the hands and the feet a lot, more than any other body part. And that we just have a lot of energy centers in our hands and feet and nerves endings and all that. So it's a common place to feel it. But yeah, like you had shoulder. There's people who've had more stomach, chest. Like it totally just depends on the person and what that person is going through at that time.
Well, I know too, I had, I think I was like kind of swallowing, like in the beginning, and you were like, your throat was like going back and forth. And I'm like, I did
Yeah,
not
I've
feel
literally
any of
seen
that.
people's bodies move, and I'm like, and they have no idea that they're moving.
Yeah.
Super trippy.
Yes.
It is.
It's just so wild.
It's really wild.
Oh my gosh. What else have you seen that you feel like was pretty impactful for you?
I think I've seen colors. They say purple is a common color that clients see, but I saw that. I've seen colors. I feel like the most like thing that I see is or feel is I'm a feeling person. Like I feel things. I feel sensations. And I see things a little bit. I did have one session where like somebody walked by me as I was giving the session. And that was a little scary for me because that's very new. And thankfully it was my husband I was giving Reiki to, but I was like, I can't wait till this is over so I could tell him what just happened. I don't know who it was. But it was something walked by me and brushed against my leg.
Someone.
So that like to the side
like
of me.
Behind you?
And that's the only time that's happened. But I don't know if I said this, but I don't think I said this, but my experience with people that I know who do Reiki and who've been doing it for a long time, they 100% of them have their intuition has gotten a lot deeper, and to the point of like they're psychic. They're not just like I feel like that sensation. They're like they see things. There's one of my teachers. I've had two different teachers, and one of them is literally only does readings now. She doesn't do Reiki anymore, and she's so psychic. That wasn't always the case. Like she's born gifted, but not until her practice really deepened did she have this psychic ability, which is, it's wild. And she was a science teacher. She's the most like left brain, very grounded woman who she's amazing. But she has become this Reiki teacher. She's a psychic, and like, who would have thought, like, before she found Reiki, because she just, it just sort of happened. And it got deeper and deeper as she continued to practice Reiki, which is, again, wild.
Do you think it's just this like attunement to the energy around us that kind of like, it's almost like the third eye is like being unblocked in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think just working with that energy, and, a lot of people will ask for support and help and guidance from guides, from your spiritual guides, from the client's spiritual guides. Having that open communication and being just, like you said, attuned to that energy. It's like, it just seems like natural that it would deepen. Yeah.
Do you have a team of spiritual guides that you talk to or are getting to know?
I always ask for assistance from guides. And I do not have like a conversation going, but I talk to them, and we'll see. They haven't talked back. Maybe they're just doing what I'm asking, which is delivering some great Reiki.
Yeah. Got you, girl.
Maybe that's the communication.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've had two people. I think it's two people, because one of them said, I think the same thing recently. Sometimes I'm like, have I heard this before, or am I going crazy? I get a little lost sometimes, but she's like, oh, you have a guide right there. He's got like kind of bluish eyes. And I'm like, oh, is he I have like one really funny one. He's just super sass. He comes out in therapy when it's like, we're going deep, and then it's like, oh, and then he like breaks a joke. I mean, it's also me, but anyway. And she's like, oh no, he's just watching. And I'm like, this guy. And sometimes, and she told me, like, before you go to bed and before you wake up, take 3 deep breaths and connect with your higher self. And I've been doing that, and it's like so much peace but I think about him and I named him Edgar. And he's just watching. He's just got blue eyes and he's just watching. And I'm just like, isn't this crazy, Edgar? Like, are you seeing this? Like, this is wild, you know? And it's just like, because anything can be scary, I think, if you believe it to be scary or like against you.
Right. I know, right? I guess it's that the perception, what you make it mean, the interpretation of it. And, it's also kind of exciting when something like that happens because you're like, oh, it's maybe my gifts are getting deeper or, I'm so new to this world. It's felt very natural and easy, like I said, but I'm still new to it. I'm still learning and it's kind of exciting when something happens because then you're like, oh, this is like getting deeper. And we'll see where it goes. And that is exciting to me.
Yeah.
But with a little, like, at times I'm like, okay, like, that is a little freaky. And my little, my brain just has a hard time comprehending it, at first. But then it's exciting too. It's new. It's a new feeling.
Yeah. Well, I have been like waking up. Does anyone care about this? I don't know why I'm saying this. But I have been like the last few weeks, like kind of waking up in like either a scary dream or feeling kind of like, like when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like a little paralyzed and you're like, what's happening? And trying to like calm my nervous system down and because I think that's a part of it. Because you actually have like, when the ghost is whatever the spirit's like passing by, you're like, oh my gosh, my nervous system is now racing. I'm scared. I'm sweating. And it's like really just trying to relax and calm yourself down and to like trust and like that there's nothing scary here, but like, what is it trying to tell me or what do I need to know? But we can't know that when we're so like in fight or freeze, fight or freeze, It's
that's interesting.
Panic.
The dream thing, I've always had nightmares. Always. I've had reoccurring dreams. Yeah. And I've also had dreams of things that have happened to me that like have come true. And that's really, well, not even bad or good. Just one time I dreamt of a person, very, very specific person. And then like a month later, I saw this person in public and like with tattoos, like very, very unique tattoos.
Wow.
And I was a lot younger and I was on a business trip and I remember I was scared. I was like, this is weird. Like, what is this? And I've had other things like that happen where I've dreamt of something and it's not even like an event. It'll just be like something that was there that came to be in real life as well. And so I always like to talk or to learn more about dreams because I think it's been something that's one way I've seen things. And I'm also like, why do I still have nightmares? I'm not watching scary movies anymore. Why are they still? I had one last night. I had a really scary dream last night.
Did you wake up?
I wake up. Sometimes I make noises and my husband has to wake me up because he knows, oh, she must be having a really scary dream right now. Like, let's save her.
Oh,
But yeah, I'll have dreams that are pretty like they feel real. Like you're in your bed at night and like somebody's coming to murder me or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? I still don't know. Okay. I don't know what dreams mean. I just know that I still have them. I still have nightmares and I don't like it. Like I grew up watching horror films. Like it was my job. Like oh my gosh, I loved it. Anything.
Way.
Like I would be like 5th grade. I mean, yes.
Like Freddy Krueger?
I loved all the Halloweens. I watched everything, like The Exorcist. I watched anything that I could get my hands on. I cannot believe they let me check these movies out at Blockbuster because I was like so young.
Yeah.
I was so young. But
12.
my girlfriend and I would just get we're like, what's the scariest movie here? And that's all we would do. And then as I got older, I'm like, okay, it's fun. But then it stays in my brain and I'll have nightmares. So I don't know. I don't know at all. If you have it, you need to have a dream expert on your show, because I really am interested to know why. And I don't know if it's just because if there's something like stressful in your life and then you have a dream or whatever it means. But yeah, but I've had the nightmares, but then it's on a separate thing. I've had dreams of things that have like come to be in real life.
Well, I wonder if it's like categorizing them. Like, I'm wondering if the nightmares are like subconscious, something's trying to work itself out, some sort of fear, some sort of like thing you can't control. Yeah. And then there's the prophetic kind of dreams, and they get to be different, and these like different, and they probably happen different in your REM sleep or cycle of sleep as well, if you can pay attention to that. Like, it's just interesting. Like, start recording it.
I've had people on my podcast talk about, it's a good thing if you dream and you remember your dreams, because that means you're getting that deep sleep. So I'm looking at it like, well, that's a good thing. I'm sleeping deeply until I wake up and full sweats.
Sweat.
Oh God.
That's so good. Okay, back to Reiki. Is there a person where it's not good for them?
Yeah, I can't think of anything that it would be contraindicated for. It's just a very positive treatment. There's really no negative side effects. There could be that period of maybe like kind of like a detox. Yeah, that could be like emotional too. I have heard that, like the story with the lady who had it, and then she was kind of in a bad mood, and then it was better. I've heard of other people having that where they have like kind of an emotionally like bad time a little bit after for a little bit. But I can't think of anyone who couldn't benefit from just being more balanced and having that. It's pure positive energy. If they're doing true Reiki, there's really no reason to not. And there's so many reasons to do it. I had my first teacher who I learned from had such bad anxiety. She didn't have anywhere else to turn. So she started getting Reiki, and it completely helped her so much. She decided that she was going to learn how to do it. And that's another thing about Reiki. You can do a level 1 training and just treat yourself. You don't have to do any clients. It can just be something that you do for yourself. Yeah. When I am having trouble sleeping, there's been times where I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like stressed about something. And I'm like, okay, toss, turn. I'm like, oh, let me do myself some Reiki. I'm out. I mean, it's my go-to. Now I don't torture myself. I just go straight to the Reiki. It's a tool. I use it to help with my sleep. I have another client who has major sleep issues. And it was like the one thing that really helped. It's natural. It's not invasive. And the fact that you can go and get a Reiki training level 1 and treat yourself, there's no negatives to come out of it. Like go and get yourself a teacher and learn Reiki. It depending on the class, it doesn't take very long. And it's just something that you can use in your toolbox if somebody is listening and like they are stressed and they are having anxiety. I love to do Reiki on my kids.
I was just going to ask you that. Tell me more.
No, I'm like,
no consent. Here you go, bro.
Hop on the table.
You need this.
I have one son who would be like, oh, like he was stressed about something. And he's like, okay, Mom, can you give me Reiki? I had another son who was really sick. Aww. And I gave him some Reiki. It was funny. I was like, how do you feel? He's like, the same. Like he felt nothing. But it's fun for my kids. It's something like, if nothing else, it gives them a chance to just shut their eyes and breathe. If nothing else, like that's beneficial. Yeah.
Right. Be away from their phone.
Like, breath work. Have some just relaxation. Also, you don't have to do anything as a client. You lay on the table, you have your clothes on, there's no tissue manipulation like a massage. You don't have to be relaxed even to receive the benefits. There's nothing you can do to block it. You can even be thinking the whole time, this is fake, and it would you would still receive Reiki. Yeah, which is cool.
Still work.
That's pretty, that's a pretty
Yeah.
neat thing about it. But for kids, I love teaching my kids ways to have a tool to deal with something in their life. And I love,
cool.
I've been, whether it's with meditation or we've done guided meditations, we've done breathing, I try to give them some tools that they can use. I wish I had these tools when I was their age.
Yeah.
I love giving kids,
seriously.
they have a lot of stress too. There's a lot of stuff going on nowadays. And it's hard being a kid sometimes. And I love that if they know they can always come to me if they want a pressure point massage or a little bit of Reiki or whatever it might be. It's a fun thing to share with somebody that you love. If somebody's having a hard time in my house or if they have a headaches, Reiki's great for headaches. Really, really great.
Oh, I love that.
I can just be like, let's just do, it doesn't have to be an hour. You can give 5 minutes.
Right.
So there's a lot of options and there's a lot of different ways you can use it. And I think it's fun for kids. And I think if one day my kids, I hope I can teach them how to do it on themselves. Just to have it in your back pocket.
Yes. And I just think it can be so special for kids because I think as parents, we like to talk about things, right? We're like, okay, let's talk about how we can solve this problem. Let's talk about your feelings, right? And sometimes, especially your kids are older than mine, but like pre-tween, teen, it's like our emotions are high. I don't want to talk about emotions. I just want to feel better, And I think Reiki is such a beautiful way of connecting without having to talk about things or having to even use your mind. It's like using your energy and not this it's just a different way of, again, entering in with someone.
It is. And it is a connection, and it is something that it's like a gift to give. I look at it like that too. And it's really, as a practitioner, not draining. Doesn't feel draining in that way, which is really good. Yeah. Because when I did facials all day,
huge.
That is a lot of work. That's all me.
I mean, I love therapy and I love talking to clients and hearing my clients. Yeah. But it can be very draining. And Reiki, there's no talking. It's just you're like letting it. Yeah. Letting the energy speak. Yeah, for itself.
Does its own thing. It does its job, and it just, like I said, it feels it's not the effort. We're just the tool to like bring it to the person on the table, and it's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing.
Which reminds me, can you do Reiki from like virtual? Because sometimes I'm seeing TikToks and they're like on the screen to me, and I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, well, I don't know about this. There is something called distance Reiki, and for me, so when I first learned distance Reiki, I had somebody that was in Scotland. I've done somebody in Scotland. I've done somebody in Italy. Like, they're not close. They're far. And I was floored by, first of all, my hands were going crazy.
Okay, but how do you do it?
It can be like you use something as like a surrogate for the person. For the way I do it, the person was laying on their bed, and I'm like, you don't have to look at me. You don't have to do anything. I'm doing the work. I'm doing the placements on the surrogate that I had. And then I used a piece of paper with like a diagram. Yeah. And I mean, let me tell you, I'm like,
that's so crazy.
I'm dying to hear if this person is like, thinks this is the weirdest thing in the world, because I think it's weird. And she was very serious before I started doing the Reiki, and like she seemed like she was in a bad mood. She was stressed. I didn't know this until afterwards, but she had lost her job. And so she gets up. Yeah. I told her, I did my whole Reiki. When I was done, I said, you can open your eyes when you're ready. Come, sit up. And she like got to the screen and she was smiling, and she's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, did you feel anything? Or like, tell me what, why are you smiling? And she was just like, oh my gosh, I felt this, I felt that. So great mood. Like, I was like, did you have a twin sister? Because like, are you sure you came back up into the screen? I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Then she emailed me the next morning and she was like, so at the end of the day, it was the end of the day in Scotland when I did it. She's like, I'm usually exhausted and not in a great mood. And she's like, I went through my closet. I tried all these outfits on for interviews that I have coming up. She's like, I woke up this morning. I went on a run. I felt amazing. She's like, I cannot believe it. Because she had never even heard of Reiki.
Wow.
But we were trading. And I just was like, it just astonishes
Holy
me.
moly.
There are times where I'm just like, this,
Yeah.
it's still like when I hear people give me feedback, I'm still to this day like astonished. I'm just like, wow, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I was so excited because it worked.
That is so crazy. What's crazy is like I'm just picturing you with over
Totally.
like a piece of paper with your
yeah.
hands, right? Is that
And there's
wild?
things I haven't mentioned in it today, but like we use symbols to help activate the Reiki. There's things that we say in our mind, and there's different, like there's a symbol just for Reiki that's over. You can do distance Reiki. I can give Reiki to somebody who doesn't even know that I'm giving them Reiki. I could give them some positive energy. It's almost like, a lot of times when people pray for people, and it reminds me of that. Like,
Yeah.
and there'll be studies about like how this group prayed for this person and this poor person didn't get prayed for. And like there's like that energy into the world. So it's like distance Reiki is more out there, and that's not something that I really offer because I love in person, and there's nothing like getting in person Reiki to me. But if there's somebody who was having trouble sleeping and they wanted me to send them some Reiki, I have a friend who's recovering from a major surgery. I gave her distance Reiki. So I definitely feel like I believe in it, but I don't really offer it as, because I think in person is more fun. But it's possible to do distance Reiki.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, so when I see their TikTok, so it's
you should be like, okay, I receive it. I don't know about those people, but
see what happens.
I'm sure there are.
I know.
My teacher she has a YouTube channel, and she does Reiki on her YouTube channel for people. So she'll even say like what it's for, or like if use this video if you're feeling this way, and people she's like, read the comments, people feel it. So
and also we learned tarot together, and that's been a lot of fun. How do you think that's like helped you with your own intuition and your gifts?
And I think that learning how to like read a card and read a series of cards and kind of check in with how it feels and what the cards are is a practice. It's definitely something that it takes time to like get, but the most fun thing I did was I did a tarot reading, then I did Reiki, and then we talked afterwards, and that was an impactful session. Let's just say, like, the things that came out of my client just came over for Reiki, and she's very into tarot, so I was like, let's do this. And she was like, yeah. And then she ended up like unloading so much that she was holding on to that I had no idea. And she just felt amazing afterwards. And I was like, oh, like tarot is also a tool. It's a tool. It is.
Yes,
it's
in the cards.
Really cool.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's right there.
It's a fun way, but also like we said, we talk about tarot as like it has a therapeutic effect, and I think a lot of times after Reiki, people want to open up and share like emotionally, which is why like coaching goes so well with this whole thing, because it gives people like, oh, this came up because this is a real thing I'm going through and this is how I feel about it. And so I don't know. I feel like tarot Reiki coaching all together is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
If you're open to it. Yeah.
Yes. Can you name like the perfect client or some things that they would be going through and what they would come to you for?
Yeah. I feel like people who need to work on their self-care practices a little bit more, you know, busy moms. I talk to a lot of people a lot of moms who just feel like burned out and they're not really taking the time because they just feel like they don't have any for themselves in any type of way. And that just really adds up when you don't take those times to fill up your own bucket. And they fill their kids' buckets so beautifully, especially in summer. And I can speak from experience. It's a tougher time, especially if you're a working mom and, you know, there's a lot of juggling. There's a lot of driving. It's tough. So learning some tools to help you fill your bucket, incorporate self-care. Those are, you know, even giving yourself permission to have an hour to go and have a treatment like a Reiki session and talk with someone that's a gift that a lot of people don't have the time for, or they just feel like they're too busy for. But those people, I feel like they need to look and try to find a way to make it a priority, because you don't want that to go on for too long and really have true burnout.
Well, it's almost, again, I think shifting that idea of self-care, like instead of getting a pedicure, pedi mani, you know, like go get your energy checked and get a Reiki session. It's going to take you the same amount of time and you're going to feel better about it than... You know, I don't know. Manicures, pedicures are so draining for me. I was like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I like my nails.
I literally talk about this. I talk about this on my podcast all the time. I'm like, if you're trying to tell me go get a manicure for a self-care day, I'm out. I do it as a maintenance. I have to do it because I've been known to have grocery store bottom feet. So it's a grocery store mandatory hour I have to go to. This pedicure is not fluff for me. I don't enjoy it. I'd rather do anything else.
That's so
for
good.
me, self-care, you know, is to take those moments. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't even have to be an hour of Reiki. You know, it's those little breaths in the morning like you're doing. You know, we can fit in things. We don't have to do all or nothing. It doesn't have to be a day at the spa. It can be 5 minutes in the morning before you even go downstairs and like try to figure out the breakfast situation. It could be sitting in bed an extra 5 minutes and taking some time to relax your nervous system. Start your day off on the right foot. Instead of just hopping up and serving everyone else. It's so easy to do that and get caught up in that. That's why I started a morning routine, like a morning practice, because I just felt like my days went a lot better after I started doing that. And I can certainly tell a difference when I don't do that. So, and you don't want to make people feel like you need to wake up at 5 and have a 3-hour morning routine. You don't need to. But we need to prioritize our well-being as well.
So one of my really good friends, shout out Sarah, you know who you are.
Hi,
she listens to every
Sarah.
podcast and she's just like the best. But Sarah, you need to go see Jess. Okay, she's in Orange County. So
Awesome.
she'll listen to it. But Jess, where can people find you or how can they book with you?
So I'm in South Orange County and California. I'm on Instagram. You can send me a message. I have a website, which is I also have an all natural skincare line. So it's called Simply Jess Skincare. It's all natural and very pure. It's very effective. So I have that website, and then I also have my Instagram at the same handle, Simply Jess Skincare. And I always am open to the DMs. So if they have any questions, they can just let me know and I can give them more details there.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. Yay, Jess. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think this was so fun. I love talking about Reiki. I think if this resonates with someone, like, go find someone and do a Reiki class. Give yourself like your own Reiki and go get a Reiki session. Like, Reiki is amazing, and a lot of people don't think about it because they don't even know what the heck it is. But I feel like after today, hopefully they understand the benefits and how it's a wonderful treatment. So
it feels so tangible.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about spirituality, it just feels like it's energy, and it just feels like an ease. There's an ease to it once you experience it or if you learn it. So
right. And it's not a hard thing to learn. So it can be something that you do for yourself. It doesn't have to be a business and a practice. But and you can also just go and receive it and see how you feel. And if there's something that is like coming up, or if you have certain things going on, that could possibly be a really nice tool for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess, for coming on.
Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are loving what you're hearing, please give us a review up on Apple Podcasts so that we can continue to reach and help others. We'll see you next time.